The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister is just off another bonanza of high-flying, high-carbon, high-taxing hypocrisy. This time on a trip to Brazil, he dripped with condescension for Canadians struggling to pay their bills. He said, it's really, really easy when you're in a short-term survive. I've got to be able to pay the rent this month. I've got to be able to buy groceries for my kids to say, okay, let's put climate change as a slightly lower priority. This is the Prime Minister burns 100 tons of jet fuel and releases 100 tons of greenhouse gases. When will he stop the high tax hypocrisy?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are facing global challenges right now. As much as the Leader of the Opposition would love to bury his head in the sand, global inflation, climate change that is impacting everyone around the world requires us to be working together, standing up for peace and justice on the world stage, standing up for women's rights, standing up for opportunities for the middle class. This requires us to work together, something the Leader of the Opposition can't do. He can't even work with his own MPs. He has to muzzle them. He is not letting them be voices of their communities in Ottawa. That's the real colors of this Leader of the Opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Order of his caucus wants to fire him, Mr. Speaker, and we know why. Food prices have risen 36% faster in Canada than in the U.S., a gap that opened up as the carbon tax came into force. The Prime Minister just goes on trying to tell Canadians that their mentality is off. He says there's a sense that affordability is in direct contrast with our moral responsibility to protect the planet, trying to shame Canadians for opposing his ineffective job-killing, inflationary carbon tax. Will you stop lecturing Canadians and call a carbon tax election?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I invite Canadians to actually watch my remarks down south, where I was talking exactly about the importance of putting affordability first for Canadians, even as we're fighting against climate change. The Leader of the Opposition can invent things that he thinks I might have said. That's not what I said. What I pointed out was that even as we are fighting climate change, even as we are creating incentives to grow our economy in cleaner, greener ways, we are putting more money back in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians with the Canada Carbon Rebate, a fact that he's busy gaslighting Canadians against.
I'm going to ask all colleagues please not to take the floor. I'm going to ask the Honourable Member from Grand Prairie Mackenzie to please not take the floor unless recognized by the Chair. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister has gaslit Canadians so much that Environment Canada has to do a recalculation of the carbon emissions that have come from the lamp. He's the Prime Minister who tells Canadians that the Parliamentary Budget Officer's data, which shows that 100% of middle-class people pay more in carbon tax than they get back in rebates, that they shouldn't believe their eyes. That they shouldn't believe their eyes when they see the grocery prices, which are rising 36% faster in Canada than the U.S. So instead of trying to gaslight Canadians, why not call a carbon tax election?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is once again just not telling the truth. The reality is, the Parliamentary Budget Officer said that 8 out of 10 Canadians get more money back from the price on pollution than it actually costs them in paying that price on pollution. The cost of inaction on climate change is astronomical, and that's exactly what he's proposing. Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition should stop misleading Canadians and actually understand that you can't fight for affordability, you can't fight against climate change unless you're investing in Canadians. That's right.
I know that certain comments cause a disturbance in the House, but I'll ask all members to be careful about the language that they use. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
his quadrupling carbon tax is all financial pain and no environmental gain. Today we learned that Canada, after 9 years of this Prime Minister, now ranks 62nd out of 67 countries for the Climate Change Performance Index. The Prime Minister says the Canadians starving or lined up at food banks should congratulate themselves for the fact that his tax has made us 62nd. We're 62nd, he pumps his fist into the air, Mr. Speaker.
Shameful.
Why does the Prime Minister make Canadians pay such high taxes to achieve such terrible results?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the Leader of the Opposition is entirely misrepresenting the facts for his own gain, for his own interest. That's really all he cares about. If he cared about Canadians, he wouldn't be standing against dental care. He wouldn't be standing against more spaces in childcare. He wouldn't be standing against putting more money in Canadians' pockets with a price on pollution that is bending our emissions down faster than our other G7 neighbours, at the same time as it's helping with affordability for 8 out of 10 Canadians in areas in which it lands. The Canada Carbon Rebate is an affordability measure that is protecting future generations, and he is standing against it.